In the final night game at the Colosseum, the Bay Area native Marcus Semien notched a milestone moment that has me thinking about, is he going to be a Hall of Famer?
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked onto the World Series champion Texas Rangers. I'm Bryce Patrick, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan covering this team for 11 seasons, including all 6 as the founder and host of this podcast. Thank you all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Patrick. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers. Hit subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform and on YouTube, where the best way you can help grow the show is to comment nearly any single thing below. Now, before we get into Marcus Semien's milestone moment, the final start of the season for Cody Bradford, and a little bit of minor league news. This episode is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.yeah. The right stay can make you a fan of any city, even your baseball rivals. Book today on Booking.com, the official accommodation partner of Major League Baseball. Get the Booking.com app today. Now, the Rangers won the final night game at the Oakland Colosseum 5-1. Started off the scoring early, and all the scoring was done by the end of the third inning. Not a very high-scoring affair, with a 2-run bomb, an RBI single, and another couple of runs driven in with another 2-run bomb in the third inning. This was not a deeply exciting affair. There were some high-wire moments, but from the very first batter of the game, that was the milestone moment. That was the moment Marcus Semien was looking for. Maybe he'll have another special one, but he said he was looking for a special moment in this series. Marcus Semien grew up in the Bay Area. I mean, he went to Cal as well. He is as Bay Area as they come. Also played for the A's for many, many moons. Really was his breakout of his MLB career. Spent one season with the White Sox, who drafted him, and then really made a name for himself as a member of the Oakland A's. Just absolutely beloved by the Bay Area, still by A's fans, and like many other star A's players who would have loved to play there for a little bit longer, got really just shafted on a contract offer, coming off of a not great 2020 season, but the last full season he played with the A's, finished third in MVP voting, was absolutely fantastic in 2019, took that 1-year betting offer on himself, had the best season of his career with the Blue Jays, and then signed that big old deal with the Texas Rangers. Last night, his first inning single was his 1,500th career hit. Now, when Marcus Semien signed with the Rangers, he had 2 out of his 3 last seasons be where he finished top 3 in MVP voting, coming off his first All-Star appearance, his first Gold Glove, his first Silver Slugger, and he was heading into his age 31 season. And the case for him to be a Hall of Famer was kind of a long shot at that point. He would have kind of needed to have an Adrian Beltre-like performance in his 30s to kind of seal up that trip to Cooperstown. And, well, I don't know that he's done it yet. I know that he hasn't done it yet. I don't know if he will do it, but he is on his way to Cooperstown if he continues to have seasons more like his age 31 and 32 season than if he comes up like this year again. I mean, even with his frustrating first season, the first month and a half of his tenure in Texas was just absolutely horrible. He still finished the year with a 5.5 Baseball Reference WAR season. Last year, an incredible 7.4 Baseball Reference WAR season, played every single day, every single at-bat, just grinding it out in that leadoff spot, playing through so much, all the way through the postseason, the most plate appearances anybody's ever had in a full season combined with the regular season and postseason. Marcus Semien did that because he is the Iron Man. And that took his toll this year. I mean, he has not been nearly as good offensively. Defensively, he's been as good, if not better, than ever. Should win his second Gold Glove this year. Probably should have won it last year, if not for Andres Gimenez of the Guardians having a fantastic season. But this year, I think he's going to be a little bit shy unless he has some monster game of having a 4 WAR season. Looking like right now, 3.7 is about where he's going to finish. It's where he's at right now. Going to miss that 25 home run plateau that he's hit in the last couple of seasons, the last, 4 full seasons. He's hit it in each of those years. Unless he gets 3 in his final 4 games of the season, he is going to fall shy of that. An OPS that will probably end up being below league average and below 700 for the first time in a full season since his 2014 season with the White Sox. His 64 games there is 673 OPS. Also had a 673 OPS on the dot in the season before his actual first full season with the White Sox. But it's been a down year for Marcus, and he will need to have a resurgence next year in order to move his way up to Cooperstown. 1,500 hits is nice. He's not going to get to 3,000. It's not going to happen. With the combination of him not becoming an everyday player until he was 24 years old, even with him being so incredibly durable, such an Iron Man, playing every single game and having really great offensive seasons the last, outside of this year, the last 4 full seasons. He's had incredible offensive seasons, but he just has not been there and will need to get back to that level and maybe even not quite surpass it, but at least get back to what he was doing. Maybe not another, top 3 MVP finish season. I think his best years are behind him, but I don't think that his good years are behind him. I think that him getting to 2,000 hits is a big milestone that he is definitely capable of doing. Definitely capable of doing in his Rangers tenure. He'll have 4 more seasons under contract with Texas after this season. I think the 300 home runs are not out of the question. Right now he's at 237, so it's going to take some doing to get there. 150 stolen bases. I think he'll get to that one more easily than he'll get to 300 home runs, because right now he's at 128 stolen bases for his career. Only 8 this year. I don't think he's going to get to double digits there unless he, starts running a whole lot in these last 4 games of the season. So a lot of the Cooperstown is going to come down to his overall WAR, and that is where I think Marcus Semien has been most valuable. I mean, you look at the complete picture of who he is, not only the intangibles of, being such a leader in the clubhouse, such an, culture stalwart for this Rangers team, but just defensively and overall the value that he brings, I think often gets overlooked. Usually around 50 career baseball reference WAR is the watermark for what makes a Hall of Famer or not. Right now, Marcus Semien is at 45.3 career baseball reference WAR. I think he's a shoo-in to get 50. I think he might even end up with 60 when it's all said and done. I think anywhere over the 60 watermark, 65 or 70, I think that's a bit stretching it unless he has another, 7 more season in him, which I don't think is impossible, but not particularly likely with how he's looked this season. But it's going to be close, and getting that World Series title, I think is definitely going to help him being, having that record of most plate appearances in a single season, postseason, and regular season combined. That's a big deal. That's a big deal to voters. It's a big deal to, former players, to players around the game. There are few players in this game of baseball more respected than Marcus Semien because he posts every single day. And this year he's going to have an insane number of games off of 3, which will be the most that he's taken off in a full season since he was 27 years old back in 2018 with Oakland. Players respect that he posts. That is his biggest skill. Now, actually, I think at this point, it's probably his defense because it's been so spectacular, something you don't normally see at the second base mark. But yeah, I really love watching Marcus Semien play. I think it's been a frustrating season for him, for everyone. I think that him getting back to somewhat of the semblance of himself offensively that he was, in 2023, is he going to have another 800, 850, near 900 OPS season in his career? Probably not, but I think he's definitely got something in there. And if he doesn't, then if he moves out of that leadoff spot and if he stops playing every single day, I think the path for him to get to Cooperstown is going to be much, much more difficult for him. But no matter how all of that ends up, he is still a Rangers legend forever, an Oakland A's legend forever. And I'm really happy that he got to have this milestone moment in a place that meant so much to him that is unfortunately being taken away from Bay Area fans. Coming up, we're going to talk about what Cody Bradford did in his final start, what we look like on the season, just in general, from him, and some nice offensive contributions from a couple other players that really, really needed to step up. Right after this word from our sponsors. This show is brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. Over 5 million active members. PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps, on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. PrizePicks is the best way to get in on the action on sports in most states, including California, Texas, and Georgia. PrizePicks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. With my picks, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. So download the PrizePicks app today, use code LOCKEDONMLB, get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks. Run your game. Shout out to the Everydayers for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. The Rangers take on the A's today. The final game at the Colosseum, 2:37 p.m. Central Time. Kamar Rocker versus JT Ginn, and you can catch every pitch of the hometown broadcast on SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search Rangers. Now, last night, the Rangers got a decent, not great pitching performance from Cody Bradford. His final start of the season, 3 2/3 innings, just the 1 run, which was technically earned, even though it shouldn't have been. An uncharacteristic 3 walks, so he didn't necessarily help himself. His defense definitely did not help him out, and 4 strikeouts in the season with a 3.54 ERA. As a starter, 13 starts this season, so taking out that 1 appearance out of the bullpen against the Cardinals that was just, to put it mildly, very bad. Those 13 starts, he has a 3.03 ERA, went 6-3 as a starter. Not that that's super important, but I thought it was worth mentioning. 74 1/3 innings, 68 strikeouts, just 12 walks, and 9 home runs. A whip below 1, so below a base runner per inning. 8.2 strikeouts per 9, not bad. But the strikeout to walk ratio of 5.67 strikeouts to walks, that is something that you can hang your hat on. That is something that he has done incredibly well this season, knowing what he does well. That fastball changeup combination, when he got away from it and tried to go more breaking ball heavy against the Diamondbacks, that lineup absolutely pounded him. But when he's gone back to it, when he has pitched to his strengths, he has been sensational. Though this one, the command getting away from him a little bit, Matt Festa coming in there with the bases loaded in the 4th inning to finish out that inning off and, gobble up a couple more innings, and this bullpen not having to use any of the high leverage guys to still get the win was impressive. Andrew Chafin going out there not walking anybody in an inning and a third, something that he has very much struggled with this season. Good to see that on him. Actually, no walks out of this bullpen when you got a combined 3 innings out of Andrew Chafin and Jose Leclerc. That's a nice sign for sure. But this defense was not doing him any favors. An uncharacteristic error by Nathaniel Lowe, thankfully didn't end up hurting this Rangers squad. But what was not counted as an error, but probably should have been, was a play by Adolis Garcia in the 2nd inning, resulting in a triple by Daz Cameron, a ball that was hit right at him. And according to the A's broadcast, the wind was acting up in right field. Making things very, very difficult to read, but Adolis Garcia comes in on a ball, 2 outs in the inning, should have gotten out of it pretty easily. At that point, the Rangers were up 3-0. But alas, Adolis Garcia breaks in, and the wind catches the ball, and it goes right over his head to probably one of the worst guys to let have room to run in Daz Cameron. An incredibly fast player. Ends up at third base, gets driven in the very next play with an RBI single from Darrell Hernandez, and it's the only run that Cody Bradford gives up. Is because of that triple that should not have been a triple that had an expected batting average of 110, and it ends up as a triple. There's also a double that was, not quite misplayed, but not played as well as Adolis Garcia could have played it. He did win a Gold Glove literally last season, but you look at his baseball savant numbers, and the range factor on him is in the 1st percentile of baseball. not number 1%, but the bottom 1% of outs above average at minus 11. Minus 11. That's difficult to do, to be that bad. Where last year he was in the 82nd percentile. I mean, his arm strength, arm value, all of those were, deep in the red. He deserved to be a Gold Glover last season. He had season before where he deserved to be a Gold Glover as well. But as frustrated as people get with Leo Taveras' occasional misadventures in the outfield, which he's had probably more than his fair share, Adolis Garcia has plenty of those as well, of just routine plays that he just completely misses. He'll also have some spectacular plays. Both those guys will have some spectacular plays and some boneheaded plays out there in the outfield. But Adolis, the spectacular has not been there nearly as much this year. And some of the ones that have looked more spectacular probably should have been a little bit more routine, to the point where I'm really considering the Rangers' best option defensively next year is to move him to DH, just occasional outfielder, because overall this year he has been a massive net minus out there in the outfield. And I'm a little concerned about the toll that it takes on him, on his body. He is a very physical player, and we saw at the end of his rookie year how, exhausted he was. I mean, how many days off he needed in the years following, of just like, this guy plays at 100% max effort every single day, and that takes a toll. And we saw it take a toll in the World Series. I mean, he ended up not being able to finish out that World Series due to an injury, and this year just has not been himself. I mean, thankfully the bat speed hasn't fallen off a complete cliff. I need to look more into it a little bit more closely, but he's still hitting the ball hard. He's still barreling it up. He's still getting good average exit velocities. But I think to get that bat right a little bit more, to take a little bit less pressure off his body, he's going to be 32 next season. But with the way that he plays, I think he is in danger of aging a little bit faster than maybe the average player is. Because, I mean, Marcus Semien is 33 this season. He was 32 last season. He was still at the peak of his, athleticism. Still, I think, not quite there this year and moving forward, but still, he's not going to fall off a cliff as much athletically, I think, as Adolis Garcia is in danger of doing. But he did make up for it with a 2-run bomb, his 24th of the season, literally the next inning, going in there and driving in the final 2 runs of the game, making up for it just a little bit. But I think that might be the best case scenario, because the Rangers have 4 outfielders for 3 spots next year. They'll have a DH spot, but I think it might end up coming down to not only Evan Carter's health, but I think it might end up coming down to, which do you value more, Adolis Garcia's bat or Leody Taveras' glove? I think that might end up being the question if the Rangers don't go out and sign some outfielder to help bolster their major league roster for next year. I don't necessarily see that happening. I think it's going to be these same 4 guys for these same 3 spots next year. And Adolis Garcia's fall off defensively from Gold Glover to massive hurt in the outfield, I think it might end up making that decision for them. But, the rest of this offense, not a whole lot going in this one. A couple of walks from Matt Duffy. That's nice to see. Getting a 2-run bomb from Wyatt Langford, who continues his offensive tear in the month of September. I really think he is going to end up being the September AL Rookie of the Month, because in this month he is still hitting over 300, slugging 600, 6 home runs, doubling the next most he has in any other month, with 3. Back when he won Rookie of the Month in June. He has been fantastic, a 985 OPS in 96 plate appearances so far this month, 5 stolen bases, just 1 shy of his most for a month, a calendar month in his career. That was at 6 back in June. I think he might end up surpassing that. Got his 5th last night, as well as that 2-run homer, which was a very, very impressive homer, something that he has done very well this season. All season long is mash against lefties. And that was not an easy pitch to hit out. I mean, it was a changeup low and away that he pulled for a home run in a stadium that is not exactly the easiest to hit home runs in, especially, in the month of September, especially in a night game. And against lefties this season, he's got an OPS of 865 to a 697 OPS against righties, 6 home runs in 110 plate appearances against lefties versus 8 and over 400 against righties. So basically a quarter of the plate appearances, he's got almost as many home runs against lefties as righties. That's important, especially for this lineup moving forward, because the Rangers don't have a whole lot of lefty mashers. It got them into problems early on this season when Josh Young was out. Josh Young absolutely obliterates left-handed pitching. He is probably their best bat against left-handed pitching outside of Corey Seager when he's at his best, but Seager struggled against lefties this year, even when he was fully healthy and at his peak, which is something he didn't do last season, which made me, a little worried that the Rangers might need some more right-handed hitting. But especially when you're bringing back Evan Carter, hopefully, for most of next season, you've got a decent amount of left-handed hitting in this lineup. Nathaniel Lowe kind of fell off against lefties these last couple of years. He was really great against them in his Silver Slugger season. And Corey Seager's had some great moments against lefties, but having a guy who absolutely obliterates lefties, that is a huge thing for him. Hopefully he's going to just keep obliterating everybody for years and years to come, but that is a great sign, that kind of a home run. Also having a 110-mile-an-hour line drive single, 110.7 mile-an-hour line drive single in this one. Wyatt Langford is unfortunately saving his best for last. Wish he could have done this all season, but it takes time. He's a 22-year-old rookie. He was drafted about a year and 3 months ago. What he's doing is not normal, and it is very impressive. And hopefully, we'll be seeing a lot more of this next season in games that will actually be mattering, unlike the final 4 of this season. Coming up, we're going to talk about some minor league news, what's happening with the Arizona Fall League, and a little bit of shenanigans going on in these final games at the Colosseum. Right after this word from our sponsors. This show is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.yeah. It's time to explore those U.S. cities you always secretly wanted to learn more about, including other baseball cities. Unfortunately, you're not going to get the chance to go out you could still go out to Oakland next year, but I might need to get myself a look at what it's going to look like baseball in Sacramento. I was hoping to get out to these final games in Oakland. Unfortunately, that didn't happen, but Booking.com is the right place to say wherever you're checking out, whether it's a baseball road trip, whether it's not a baseball road trip, Booking.com delivers exactly the right stay just for you. Booking.com can help you book a stay that's close to your home team or your rival team's stadium. So no matter what team you're rooting for this postseason, Booking.com can make you a fan of any U.S. city. From hotels that overlook stadiums to family-friendly resorts to cute bed and breakfast stays, Booking.com has so many choices across the U.S. The right stay can make you a fan of any U.S. city, even your baseball rivals. Booking.com. Booking.yeah. Now, the Rangers' minor league season is done. Well, for the most part. They've still got the Arizona Fall League, which at points has been interesting, especially the last couple years. It's not quite, there are not quite any prospects on the same level that there have been for the last 2 years. I mean, last year there wasn't a whole lot made of what was going on there, but Emiliano Teodo really was the breakout star coming out of relief, didn't allow a single earned run in the Arizona Fall League last year, really kind of established himself as, what I did in the regular season, it was for real. I'm for real. And then this year, he very much built on that. We're not going to see him in the Arizona Fall League. The year before that, we saw Kamar Rocker out there. Not as exciting. More exciting, but also terrifying, and it ended up all working out. But that was definitely something to keep an eye on. This year, there are definitely some eyes who I think are very interesting that are on this Arizona Fall League roster. The Rangers announced it yesterday morning. The list is Maximo Acosta, an infielder with the Frisco Rough Riders, right-handed pitcher Mark Church, infielder Cody Freeman, righty reliever Skylar Hales, right-handed pitcher Leandro Lopez, their minor league player of the year Alejandro Ozuna, right-handed pitcher and local boy Josh Stephen, and left-handed reliever Avery Weems. Now, of these guys, I think the ones that I'm most interested to see what they're going to do is Max Acosta. Acosta's had a really great defensive season with the Frisco Rough Riders. The glove is legit. I think this guy is legitimately going to be a big leaguer. Now, is he going to be an everyday big leaguer? I'm not really thinking so. But his offensive numbers have been really solid at Frisco. 26 stolen bases, just 9 times caught stealing, a 777 OPS while playing exceptional defense at both shortstop and second base. I didn't see him play third base this year, but I bet that he can do it. And he's 21 years old. He's still pretty young. He was a guy who the Rangers signed with a big signing bonus, so there have been hopes on this guy for quite some time. Also a pretty solid strikeout rate of just 58 strikeouts in 434 plate appearances. He is a guy who I think the Rangers clearly are showing they're keeping an eye on him. He's someone that is going to be a part of their plans. I think that he might have to be put on the 40-man roster this winter, and they will be wanting to make a decision about that, as well as Cody Freeman, who had a pretty solid offensive season and defensive season this year. 14 bombs for him, moved off of catcher, just played strictly the infield, third base mostly this season. He is a guy to keep an eye on. And Alejandro Ozuna, the 21-year-old outfielder, brother of, unfortunately, Roberto Ozuna, not same kind of makeup concerns with him, thankfully, but a great season for him. 102 games for him, 461 plate appearances and 18 bombs, and 869 OPS between Hickory and Frisco. And in Frisco, he was even better. An OPS nearly 80 points higher in Frisco in a few more plate appearances, 265 to just below 200 in Hickory. The guy had a very impressive season. I'm still not completely sold on him as an everyday player, but as a fourth outfielder, I think this guy is legitimately going to have a solid long-term big league career. I mean, he can pick it out there in center field decently. He's pretty fast. He's got some pop. He puts together really good plate appearances. I mean, a 362 on base percentage on the season, a 507 slugging. He can get some hits out there in the gaps for some doubles. He's got some over-the-wall power. He also had 5 triples on the season and stole 17 bags. He's got some speed out there, and I like the glove. The arm is fine. It's probably not right field. Probably be fine in center field. Definitely fine for left field, but he's a guy who the Rangers clearly want to take a little bit closer of a look at. And then Josh Stephen, who is the DeSoto, Texas native, graduated from South Grand Prairie High School, was one of those 2020 undrafted free agent signees. He had a bit of a mixed bag this year, mostly bad. Not a great year at Frisco as a 22-year-old, but only pitched in 12 games, had an ERA right around 5, still struck out around 1 per inning. The home run numbers were a little bit much. He got a little bit of BABIP with 10.3 hits per 9. The Rangers want to get a little bit closer of a look at him. The stuff isn't overwhelming, but I still think this guy could be a back-end rotation pitcher. I mean, he's still just 22 years old, still much younger than the average pitcher in the Texas League. They want to give him a few more innings, and I think that is definitely a smart move for them. One of the other guys who I think is very interesting is Skylar Hales. I didn't end up getting to see him in Frisco the few games that I went out there this year, but he was a 4th-round pick as a reliever out of college. Partly, don't think 4th-round talent for reliever. That's not something that happens very often, but a lot of that was because the Rangers had to go over slot, had to do whatever they could to sign Wyatt Langford. Well worth whatever they pay. I think it was around $8 million in that signing bonus. They also didn't have 2nd or 3rd round picks, so they were a little shy on bonus money, so they went guys who they knew they could sign under slot with those 4th and I think 6th round picks as well in 2023. But Skylar Hales is a righty who dials it all the way up there into the upper 90s. He's looked pretty darn good in Frisco. 24 games for him, 30 innings, 31 strikeouts, over a strikeout per inning, 2.5 walks per 9, and only 0.3 home runs per 9 on the season. Just 1 homer in 56 2/3 innings. He's a guy who could help the bullpen next year. Very much that is on the table for him, as is Mark Church, possibly helping this bullpen next year. I thought he might help this bullpen this year, but Mark Church missed a lot of this season due to injuries, so getting eyes on what those guys look like in Surprise, I think, will be something that's important. As for the other guys on this roster, I mean, Freeman is solid. I don't know if he's a big leaguer or not. Moving him off a catcher makes me less enthused, but the offensive numbers he put up this year were solid. Avery Williams has been a guy who's been kind of in limbo, but when you're a lefty and you can throw in the upper 90s, there's always going to be a chance that you can help a big league team at some point, whether he will do so or not. Not entirely sure. You may remember him as a part of the, I believe it was the Lance Lynn trade. The Rangers got him from the White Sox. I think it was him and Dane Dunning, and if I remember correctly, one more in that trade. Or maybe it was just those two. Still, he's been around for a while as a character in the Rangers minor league system, and someone who might end up getting his big league debut next year. Not entirely sure. Or the Rangers might just cut ties with him after this season. I don't know what the Rangers are going to do with him. I wasn't that enthused with the few times that I saw him in AA Frisco, but the rest of these guys on this roster, I'm pretty excited to see what they can do in the Arizona Fall League. One last little note, just some shenanigans going on, of course, in the final couple of games at the Colosseum. Tensions are high. Fans are stealing chairs, and there's apparently a security guard chasing a guy who was trying to steal a stadium seat. There were pictures of people stealing stadium seats in the first night game of the season. What's going to happen in this final game at the Colosseum, I'm not entirely sure, but it's been good to just see it packed, see it lively, and see these fans getting that last opportunity to say goodbye. The Rangers have some strict security protocols in place to make sure that if something absolutely bonkers happens, which has happened, there have been some incidents on the field with Rangers and wild things happening, including Frankie Francisco throwing a chair out of the bullpen in the Oakland Coliseum. Also, you may remember 10-cent beer night from many moons ago. That I'm hoping that whatever happens in this final game at the Coliseum doesn't get anywhere near that, because that was an absolute disaster. And just hoping that these fans get their chance to say goodbye, and hoping that John Fisher is forced to sell the club and that this team can come back to Oakland so they can say hello once again, because it is such a tragedy that Major League Baseball is leaving Oakland. But I'm excited to see what they're going to do in this final game, in these final games of the season. But that's going to do it for today's show. Thank you all so much for listening and subscribing. And until next time, don't forget to enjoy World Series champion Texas Rangers baseball.